Etsy dropping the 3D printing hammer, plus what to print when you're bored. Hey guys, welcome to my vlog series. I haven't dropped one of these in a while, especially in between the new branding that went from Tashi's Station Emporium to Moocher's 3D Printing Lab. I did post a community post, a little quick write-up on why I did this change. I'll just kind of give you a quick rundown. The Tashi Station is a Star Wars trademark, and I used it very tongue-in-cheek at the very beginning when I was starting to create my own 3D printing business. I thought it was kind of cool. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. If you can tell behind me, I do these droid builds, and my latest Emperor's Throne build for the action figures. If you want to check it out, it's gonna be right there. Yeah, so I did it as a fan homage to Star Wars, but I quickly would decide to, like, hey, you know what? This is a young channel, and I'm gonna need to change it eventually, and so why not do it now? And so I can kind of get ahead on it, a little bit of a foothold on that. So again, that's why the Tashi Station branding over to Moocher's 3D Printing Lab. And why Moocher, right? Well, I'm Darth Moocher, one of the hosts for the Sarlacc Digest podcast, a Star Wars podcast, and it's just something that carries over. So I hope that I'm going to have a lot of fun. I hope you have a lot of fun with what I'm going to be doing with this channel. Creating that little bit of a monster lab meets a sci-fi theme to it, and as I continue the ultimate builds and just modeling and having fun with the 3D printing world, eventually this is going to be my full-time job. I actually deciding right now, even though I have a full-time job, I'm making this my full-time job. I want to dedicate so much to this, mainly because I'm having fun with it. A lot of fun, especially with discovering what's going on in 3D printing technology-wise, modeling my own stuff, getting better at learning Fusion 360, creating my own files, and doing scratch builds like that. I think that was the most fun I've ever had in this hobby so far, and I want to continue it. So, Moocher's 3D Printing Lab, yeah. With the 3D printing world, right? Something happened. It's kind of major, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it because I do have a definite opinion on the impact on what's happening. But right now, so if you guys don't know, Etsy, which is almost like an eBay, but Etsy is the buy sell, or it's the buy sell platform for handmade items. That was supposed to be the platform for it. You upload what you want. Same thing like eBay, right? It mimics it. For 3D printing items, anybody was able to post, pre-June 10th of this year, 2025, they were able to upload a picture of a print, STL files, or sell a model. If they had permission or not, you were able to do that, and you could sell printed, your own. You could sell other people's models, like I said, if you have permission. Maybe even if you didn't have permission. I don't know how far that went, but you were able to do that. Etsy came down pretty hard on this rule and changed their policies where now only the owner and the designer of that 3D printed file could sell that print or that file. Doesn't even matter if if I design something, I gave somebody else a permission. Right now, they cannot sell on Etsy because they are not the original owner. Okay. There are tons and tons of Patreons and Etsy customers who solely sit and design things. Some of them are not even 3D printers themselves, but they design 3D models, and they just have a monthly subscription or sell a license for people to download, print, and they can go and sell on Etsy, right? Kind of a big market. It's actually a real big market selling 3D printed items. A lot of it is those Flexi Animals that you see out there, like little dragons that are articulated, spiders, and animals, all sorts. So now with the new policy, only the original creator can sell that on their platform. A lot of people have opened kiosks at the mall. They go to swap meets, they go to home shows, and they print and they sell those platforms, right? That's still a viable option for those. But again, Etsy was a huge marketplace for this purpose. Now, because it's such a, I'm going to say this, and again, I'm giving you guys my thoughts on it, and some of it might be controversial. You might not agree with it, or you might agree with it. This is the conversation, right? Leave comments in the section below, and let's continue it. But I did feel, again, I'm not right now. I'm not going to give you what I think about the decision, but as far as the industry itself, as far as all the pages that sell 3D printed items, especially with those Flexi Animals, right? It's become so saturated because you can buy a Bamboo Lab 3D printer with the AMS for 400 or 500 bucks. Okay, that's an investment that can do 4 different colors on the print. You can subscribe to a Patreon for an STL monthly service for $10 a month, download and print and sell as much as you want. Now, that sounds great because it is great. It's one of those things where it allows anybody to make a small investment and get into the business, and they start making money overnight. Because again, it is a very popular, it's a very popular niche item that people want, especially like it's like a toy. It's the new generation of toys. People clamor for this stuff, and I do too. I love it. Anything 3D printing, I love. But I did see that it is an oversaturation. I see a whole bunch of YouTube channels. I see tons of Patreon. If you could scroll on Kickstarters and Patreons and Etsy, it's like you can't find, or you can find overabundance of the same dragon egg, the same Flexi thing. It's over and over. Now, again, this is an online market. I have seen it out in the wild too, out in, like I said, swap meets and home shows and stuff, where everybody has their booth. Toys and comic shows. Now people are having booths of 3D printed items. And as a 3D printer, I walk by, I'm like, I know exactly all this stuff, what it is, and hey, more power to you. If you've got permission, that's where my stance is, number one, first and foremost. If you have permission, then I have nothing to say about that. You go do you. It's great. It's awesome. Yeah, that's what you paid the monthly service for, right? The Patreon or whatever. You invested. You have permission to do it. Cool. But the ones that are out in the wild sometimes, like the ones, like I said, at the swap meets and stuff, you can't tell and you can't check on if they have permission or not. So they could be pulling down files from all over the place, selling them, and nobody is the wiser, right? Until they start to post online. Like on Etsy or eBay, right? So I think Etsy took a stance on it, maybe a little bit, maybe with the band hammer a little bit too hard. Maybe that's their way of combating people that don't have permission to do this, where it's going to be, now it's solely on the designer, the owner, for them to have their own markets. Like I said, on one hand, I think it's positive because it'll retract a little bit of the saturation. You know what I mean? It'll put where it's not overly saturated with these dragons and all that stuff, these dragon eggs. Again, and I do think it's a very niche market, and I think it's a trend right now that'll go away in time, and something else will take over. Something else in 3D print will take over. So it is one way of kind of like cutting the fat off the entire marketplace, and try to bring it back a little bit to where there's only a few sellers out there. On the other hand, like I said, there's twofold. There's two industries that's going to hurt, and it's the ones who are sitting there and designing and have full teams, and that's all they do is design STLs, and they sell a service, and you go and do what you kind of have to do. And I said Etsy is probably at the top when it comes to making money at doing 3D printing. The other businesses, of course, again, what I had mentioned before, getting a multicolor. I'm using Bamboo Labs as a example because I have one. I don't have other machines as far as the AMS system, so I'm going to be using that. They're not pay me to say it or anything, but people that have made those investments on those smaller, cheaper printers with the AMS system, that's going to kill their supplemental income or their business. It's going to kill it. Now, again, first and foremost, I got to reiterate: if you're not an owner of those files and you don't have permission to use those files in any shape or way, if you're stealing, then I have no sympathy for you or anybody that does it. I don't. I think it's completely wrong. As somebody who's in the 3D printing industry, and creating models and selling printed files of my models and doing everything, I know the amount of work that goes into it. And if I don't give someone permission, then that it's stealing. So I think everybody should be in agreement, unless you're the one stealing stuff, right? But I think everybody's in agreement on that. But like, it's a touchy situation when it comes to if you're basing a business off of you have permission to do these and you want to sell them online. And it said Etsy is a huge market. It's a huge market. So a little bit of controversy there. I don't know if it's going to last. Okay, so again, June 10th it went into effect. Nothing lasts forever. Even like on some of those tariff prices on printers, they retracted within a month, and maybe they'll go back. Who knows? So I don't know. This is something that Etsy's paying attention to, where it's gonna. I think they're looking at, like I said, the way I see it, they're looking at their entire market. And if you type in 3D printed, say you saw a kid that had a 3D printed dragon, and you typed in 3D printed dragon on Etsy, and it's like, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pages, and it's maybe it's their way of, like I said, trimming the fat off of it a little bit and bringing it back. Putting it, I mean, the smart way is putting the sole permission on the owner itself. I mean, that makes the most sense to me. A owner should always get the top listing, the top billing of anything. Again, I know about permission and licenses, and if you pay for the license, it's essentially yours for that. The if As long as you carry that license, it's yours to do what you want. But like I said, I might come in a little bit on the harsher side of, as somebody who does create things. I don't want. I mean, I'm not giving permission either, but I'd like to keep control of all that anyway. So I don't know. It's I don't think there's a black and white answer to it. It's a little gray area on that. It's Etsy can do what they want. It's a private company, so they can make all the rules they want. Uh, the one thing about this is, if you are somebody who, um, you know, depended on the Etsy marketplace to sell your stuff, then it's going to force you to change and be more creative in ways how you do sell those licensed items. You can go to Shopify, open up a store. You can start mass marketing on social medias through Instagrams and linking all that stores together. A lot of work, and because you're not paying for that marketplace. But you also are going to keep more of the profits, because Etsy and eBay, they take a lot of fees, almost to the point where it's like, you're making a couple dollars and your time isn't being compensated for if you're going that route. So this might be almost like a blessing in disguise for you guys, a little silver lining that forces you to create a marketplace of your own, via website, Instagram, I guess whatever you have, to try to create your own path in that way. And I've seen a lot of comments on this too, on other people's sites and everything. People are very afraid of creating their own models and trying to step in that field. But the other answer is to start to create your own models, and try to create your own identity in these things, even if it's in the same lane of those Flexi Animals. Create your own version of it, create your own color scheme and your own model of it. Today's day and age, with the technology the way it is, and the softwares that are free, and the abundance of resources on YouTube, it's not going to be overnight, but you can actually get a grasp on it, starting with a very primitive idea of it, and start to move on. As the more you do it, the more advanced you will become, and the more easier that your modeling will, take form, and you start to make these complicated shapes and everything, and you're saying, oh my god, I'm making my own Flexi Animals, I'm selling my own. Therefore, now it's all on you. You control it. You pay nobody. You keep more of the profits. So again, sometimes when the industry throws a roadblock in front of you, the best thing to do is to hurdle it and carve your own path around it or over it or whatever, and forces you to um, change the way you do things. And who knows? This might be a long term thing Etsy's doing, or it could be where the backlash is too much, where they're gonna reverse on that. Um, I kind of like I was a little bit like kind of like I know I'm all about the owner of the files, but if the owner's given permission, then there's nothing to say. You know what I mean? If you like I said, if you buying the license and they said do what you want with these, then there's absolutely nothing to say. You are in the right on that. So just again reiterate: don't steal, buy, pay the owner what they want for you to use their stuff. And again, um, change the way you do things in the market. Identify the saturation too, and try to maybe get into something else that's starting to pop up. Because again, those animals and all those little trinkets and stuff, it's a trend. It's gonna die off soon, and people are gonna be stuck with like thousands and thousands of models in their inventory and can't move them anymore. Um, especially especially if you're doing it like in PLA and kids are playing with it and breaking. It's gonna get a bad reputation, and that's what my one of my fears is on 3D printing, is that people are gonna come back and be like, these break, they warp because kids leave them in the car, it's too hot, and then everything from now on is going to be like a stigmatism attached to 3D printing, meaning if the care is not there, but you can't control that after it leaves your store, or if after you ship something, it's going to be where it's not a viable option anymore for these people because they're going to catch on the problematic um, nature of 3D printing. Okay, and that's like another thing why I always kind of like try to stick in a different lane, and you see trends as what they are, but also know that there's a time limit on those too. So yeah, I mean, you guys, this is just my thoughts, just trying to like gauge where 3D printing came from. I said I've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen 3D printing grow from the ground up, and I'm watching how it's changing, how it was becoming it was very niche to almost commercial, to the point where it's like, oh my god, it's getting to the point where it's almost in everybody's household, and then it retracts hard because of the learning curve. People caught on to the learning curve. They don't want to spend that time on it, so it retracted back to the niche. Now the technology is better right nowadays, like Bamboo Labs. It's a point and click kind of stuff. You just download and send off to the printer, and you have a model without any effort. And that brings me to this other point. There's going to be a point where these 3D printers are going to do so much for you, take all the guesswork out of problems, which is great, but it's not the end all be all. Because when you're designing a model or you're pulling someone else's model in there, the printer can only do so much. And you can't cookie cutter the same settings from one model to the other, and you're going to have to know how to identify different ways and different solutions to get that ultimate print for you. So as the printers become smarter and easier to use, again, and everybody's uploading their own profiles, so again, you just download and send via your phone or whatever, and a couple hours later you have this print. Eventually you're going to come into problems because you go, hey, why isn't this printing well? You're going to, it just save yourself some headache, and learn why those settings are there. Learn the slicing software as much as you can, as much as you want to. But I feel that let's not get complacent on these printers when they're doing a lot of taking all the guesswork for you, because the guesswork is temporary. That guesswork was for that model. And if you have that attitude going forward for other things that you're doing, especially if, like I said, if you wanted to start to create items of your own modeling wise and print and sell them, you're going to have to know a lot more what's going on with the slicing software, the settings, and what your printer is doing. That'll give you the edge over everybody, because 99% of people are just downloading and sending. And they're coming up with a lot. They're coming across a lot of problems that they can't fix, and so therefore either the printer sits in a closet because they don't want to learn what's going on, or they break it and they. So anyway, a little bit of advice on my end, because again, I that's the way I do things, and if you want to have a lasting effect in this hobby slash industry as a professional, even a hobbyist that wants to do like cosplay and stuff like that. I mean, you got to know the hobby, and I do trust a lot of people do. I mean, I'm speaking in general terms, because I do see things. I'm on YouTube all the time. I watch YouTube. I go to forums and I see especially like on Facebook, like the groups, right? What's going on, and they post a picture of their printer, and it's so easy to identify. Um, Everybody jumps in there to browbeat that person that didn't know. And my approach is like, I'm not going to browbeat you, but I want you to learn why this is happening. It's happening more often because people are just being very, like I said, they're just being very complacent. It's the simplest fix in the world, but it's because the machines are making it easier, but they're not. Um, anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm trying to say. Just if you're gonna get involved, and so that's the short answer for it. But I also want to say that I have zero problems trying to help. Look, I'm not near a expert level, but I know enough to identify problems on the printers themselves. If the printer's making a certain noise, if it's doing something, if it's printing perfect one day and it's not perfect the next day, I can identify what's going on, and we troubleshoot and process of elimination, find out what's wrong with that printer and fix it. If the model isn't sticking to the bed, I mean, there's a ton of solutions. So I welcome people to send me, or maybe like I said, maybe we could do a live stream of people sending a problem, like this is the problem I'm having, and let's try to fix it together and try to create that education that goes out there, with these vlogs, because I want the 3D printing industry to really take off and be good. I want models out there to look great and to function great. You know what I mean? Because I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the industry, and I don't want easy fixes to slip by and then people go, wow, this is horrible. This 3D print looks horrible. 3D printing is not cool. It's like, nah, it is. It's just that setting right there could have made that model so much better. So that's one of my goals here too. I'm not the end all be all. There's tons of other sources out there. So seek them out. Study. Anyway, guys, yeah, so I like to kind of just kind of shoot from the hip a little bit and see where things go. The whole purpose of the vlog series. One of the major, I almost say this for me, okay, when I'm in between projects or if I have trouble trying to get started on something, I look at this printer right here, right? This is my CR10, one of my CR10s, Creality machines, and sometimes it just sits here and does nothing, and it bugs me so much. So I spend a lot of time forcing myself to find something to print, and so usually when I'm bored, right, like it's like I want to print something, but I don't know what to print, and I'm bored, and I go on like Thingiverse, right, or Bamboo, Maker the Lab, and I just find I'm like searching for hours, on certain models. Like, okay, that's easy. Okay, that's gonna take way too much filament. There's way too much colors. I don't want to spend hours or like days on this print. I just want to print something today and wake up in the morning and have it, done or whatever. So one of my tips is if you're in that situation where you want to print something but you don't know what to print and you're stuck, right? The best thing to do is to get up and walk around your house. Look at your household, okay? For example, I have a what I call a coffee/tea bar in my kitchen. It's a little cabinet, and it's got on the top shelf has got like teas and whatnot, and underneath it's got my mugs and the little coffee thing. So I'm like, look how disorganized this is. I hate it. I don't like looking at it. And I'm like, you know what? Can 3D printing help me on this? Can I find models without sitting there and modeling things myself? Because that would be a different video. But is there something out there that I can just start organizing this coffee bar, this tea/coffee bar? And absolutely, that's the first thing. It got my printers going. So the first thing I looked at is like I got all these little tea bags, and I'm gonna make it an organizer, a little bit of a tray. And I found a great model, and I will put the link in the comment section for you guys to check out this model too. It's kind of my way of doing the model of the week. So, but this model here is it's something that was just cool. It was fun to print. It was easy to print. You know, there was I used matte finish, matte hatchbox because I had some laying around, and that's again being bored. I didn't want to buy anything that I didn't have already laying around, and I wasn't using this stuff. I had many rolls and I just wasn't using it, so it's the only reason why I used that matte finish. But matte finish or matte PLA gives you such a clean finish versus just standard PLA. So I thought this was kind of cool, and so I printed out this model, and I started the organizational system of my coffee/tea bar in my kitchen. So using 3D printing, bored out of my mind or in between projects, it was a perfect way to look at something and get a solution in place moving on. So like I said, it might not last in this area. I might, like I said, go in there and design something completely different or find some other models that go with this kind of theme. But for right now, it's a start. And I think that's where a great place anybody can do, especially if you're bored and you want to print something, but you don't want to take the time and model, and you just want to just kind of like zone out and just have something printed, but you want your printers working to say you printed something. Best way to do it. Look around your house, find a need, and start to work towards, finishing it. Organizational tools and organizational systems are the best things for 3D printing. And that's why in the future, in the future, every house is going to have a 3D printer where you want to customize a shoe rack. It's going to be, you just type it in the thing, boom, boom, boom. And a couple days later, you have a customized 3D printed shoe rack. And that's what's fun. That's what's fun, to kind of like customize your house in this way. Same thing as going to IKEA, but you're doing it in front of your computer or your phone, right? So anyway, guys, thank you so much for letting me ramble. Thank you for letting me talk about what's going on with Etsy. I don't sell on Etsy. It's just, again, this is my opinion. So, if hey, even if you think I shouldn't have an opinion on this, let me know. And we'll continue a conversation. I myself have create files, and I have my own side business for 3D printing. I do action figure stands. For all my Star Wars figures and my G.I. Joe figures, I created my own stands and my backdrops. I 100% design my own, and I sell them on Shopify, and I use social media to advertise that outlet, So, but today's policies on Etsy, I could go on Etsy right now and open a store and do that, but they take a lot of fees. But I couldn't give permission for somebody else to do it. And again, if I'm given permission, I think that should be allowed, as long as they have permission. But again, it's a conversation. I'm curious to get more of a deeper dive on Etsy's thoughts on it, and if they're going to reverse that. But anyway, yeah. So fun stuff, man. Leave a like. Leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't to, and we're gonna do more of these. We'll see what's going on in the future. I think some interesting stuff in the horizon, especially with this channel. I am on to a couple of my ultimate builds, and like I said, I dropped a fully from concept to model to the finished product, basically a movie set of the Emperor's throne room from Return of the Jedi, Star Wars, for these figures. And it is a massive model that's sitting in my living room right now. It's so funny because it's sitting there. I got no room, but I'm planning on adding to it. You know what I mean? Almost doubling what it is and everything. So I'll be breaking that down in future. I've got another droid build coming very, very soon, and some cool other pop culture things that it's going to be cool to talk about and print. So it's there's no better time right now to be involved in 3D printing. So thank you everybody. Thank you everybody for leaving their comments and their likes and just suggestions on my new branding, the Moochers 3D printing lab. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's just a fun theme to go on as this channel grows. And again, this is my full-time position in life. This is what I want to do. I enjoy it too much to just have it done half a day. Eventually, it's going to take over my day job, and let's go. So print something epic. I will see you guys on the next one.